What is the crack, everyone? It's Nathan here, aka the Rambling Kern, and head instructor of Kern School of Combat. So apologies for the wee bit of delay in videos recently, just very busy few weeks for me, but we'll be back to regular schedule from here. So today's video I wanted to discuss what is perhaps one of the most famous duels in Irish history, yet is probably not very well known to many. At the time it was huge news and it had a very big impact on Irish society, and I also think it had quite a big impact on how Irish society views and reflects upon violence, essentially. So for those who are new to the channel, this is some of the stuff I cover. If you want to sponsor my work, I do have a Patreon. I also teach lessons in Irish martial arts. You'll find all those details in the description. Anyway, so the individual involved in this duel was a man by the name of Daniel O'Connell. Now he deserves a series of videos in his own right. He's a fascinating man. I've touched on him previously with references to faction fighting in Ireland. He actually had quite a hand in reducing their occurrences in the country. He was known as the Liberator. He was the first Roman Catholic member of Parliament from Ireland, and that was a huge deal at the time. Now, like I said, man deserves a whole series of his own, but I wanted to touch on a duel that he took part in 1815, and it would be the last duel that he'd take part in his life. Now, he had a series of different things happen throughout his life, and like I said, very interesting character, but this duel was quite an interesting one, but quite, how would you say, common for the style of duel that it was. So this was basically came about due to a speech that O'Connell gave in January of 1815, which he basically was saying that the Dublin Corporation was being badly managed by a gentleman by the name of Kildare. Apologies to anyone if I'm butchering that name. But Kildare did not want to take this slight upon his honour, even though he was actually bordering on bankruptcy at the time. And he sent a letter to O'Connell demanding that he withdraw that statement. O'Connell didn't. And as a result, it provoked Kildare to set out and cause trouble, basically. He went out onto the streets of Dublin, kind of shouting and raving, looking for O'Connell. He was driven off the streets by Dublin locals who... O'Connell was pretty much a folk hero at that point, and they were having none of it. They didn't want anyone disparaging O'Connell, but obviously this man had been slighted and he wanted to get revenge. Now, I think it's quite interesting that if we had poor mismanagement or corruption within our government being dealt with this way, it would be a very different political landscape, but I digress. So a few days had passed by this point and things were getting a little bit tense, as you can imagine, and Kildare sent a letter to O'Connell's second, a man by the name of Jimmy Wren, and the issue of a duel was put forth. So the location was agreed upon. It was Lord Ponsonby's Demont, or Domain. I always say Demont. So it was Lord Ponsonby's domain at Bishop's Court, County Kildare. And the afternoon in question, they would be have their choice of weapons. The choice was pistols, which were provided for by a man by the name of Dick Bennett. Both pistols had notches in their butts to denote kills made by the weapons, so these were notorious dueling pistols. And the two individuals, Kildare was a known dueler. He had a background in basically carrying out a number of duels in his past. However, O'Connell was known to be quite a crack shot. There's a saying that he was able to snuff out a candle from, I believe it was 9 paces. Now, when the duel took place, Kildare took the first shot. He miscalculated. He fired too low, and in doing so he missed O'Connell. O'Connell returned fire, and he later went to say that he didn't intend to kill Kildare. He only intended to wound the man. However, he also shot low and hit him in the groin, and that was the duel itself. However, as a cause of this injury, Destair passed away a few days later, and O'Connell did kind of brag a little bit to say that he could have placed a shot wherever he wanted, but he said in the preceding days to newspapers that he didn't intend on killing Destair, that he only wanted to wound the man and kind of teach him a lesson as such. And as I mentioned earlier, Destair was close to bankrupt at this point, and in the preceding days while he was on his deathbed, the bailiffs came, they took all his belongings from his house, they sought all the money that they could. It was a very sad turn of events, and it's something that really changed O'Connell and really changed the public perception on duels, from this kind of matter of honour to a very kind of sad and trivial thing that didn't have to occur, because a few days later Destair passed. And as a result, O'Connell was kind of heartbroken by this. He wanted to put money towards the family to, help them with costs and help them recover. They refused. They were kind of honour bound to refuse this. However, Destair's daughter did have an allowance paid to her that was accepted by her. It was paid by O'Connell. And after that day, O'Connell swore that he would never duel again. And he was often seen with a glove or a handkerchief wrapped around his hand, either when he was in church or when he passed by the door of the home. And it's a very interesting case, this one, of two gentlemen who were very proficient marksmen. O'Connell had a military background. Destair was a known duelist. Everyone kind of feared for O'Connell in many circles because of that. However, he misplaced his shot. O'Connell capitalised, and like he said, from the records, O'Connell was known to be quite a crack shot with a pistol. He was trying to do the, honourable thing and only wound his opponent. However, it caused his death. This is one of those things that happens in duelling, but it had a very much a knock-on effect in the Irish psyche, and duelling went from being viewed as somewhat of a glamorous thing the gentleman did, and after that there was kind of a decline in its view. And O'Connell and a lot of the other political bodies at the time very much created a image of a holy and serious Irish person. They wanted the Irish populace to be treated seriously as part of the kingdom at that time, and they weren't being. That was one of the reasons why he really admonished faction fighting, because it was playing into stereotypes that he didn't appreciate, which is why violence was really denounced. The church was denouncing it at the time, and so was O'Connell, so were various other bodies, and steps were being made to be viewed in a better light, essentially. And unfortunately, a life was lost that day. This duel really kind of swept across England and Ireland and the Commonwealth as a whole, due to obviously the nature of those involved, the popularity and the fame that was behind these people. But it had a lot of knock-on effects into Irish society. Dueling at this point wasn't quite as popular as it had been, and it definitely takes quite a strong decline over the coming years. It had been at a peak only a century, or maybe even a century and a half earlier, and while dueling continued for quite some time, it was very much viewed in a very different light after this. Like I say, this became one of the most famous duels in Irish history, and while there was a sad loss of life, it created a very interesting political and social situation behind it. Now, I will be touching on other duels and other kind of effects and knock-on effects of them. If there are any in particular that you guys would like me to touch on, please do let me know. My previous video, I touched on a duel in the 1500s in Dublin Castle. It's a fascinating accounts that we have of it. For those who haven't watched that video, please do check it out. And I will have lots of upcoming videos over the next few weeks. A lot of interesting projects ahead. We'll be doing further weapon tests. I know they're always popular, and I have future hiking videos and videos on Irish stick fighting, which I know everyone is a fan of. And of course, if you want to request any videos, you can leave a comment below, or you can join my Patreon, where you can put forward requests directly to me, as well as asking me any questions or anything that you'd like to discuss with me personally. If you'd like to take part in a class in Irish martial arts, I run them in South Dublin. You'll be able to find all of the details in the description of this video. If you haven't, please do give us a like and subscribe. I hate asking, but it does really help the channel, and it's just one of those unfortunate things that you have to do. Once again, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and salam.